figure out why Matty DeMarinis can't drive here from
Yeah,
Fayetteville.
this ought to be good. And I clowned you yesterday. I'm like, it's a 6-hour drive. Why are you worried about his sleeping habits? And he's still in
Yeah,
Fayetteville.
why aren't you home, bud?
I mean, I wanted to. Well, first of all, I didn't get a lot of sleep on
Sunday.
Saturday. Is that when they play Sunday night? Yeah, and
All running together.
it is all running together, man. And then I was kind of like in the weeds with my final story and everything, and I was trying to make sure it was sharp. So yeah, time got away from me, and then I was like, well, it's probably not a good idea to drive 6 hours on this, so I'll just take the extra day.
Oh,
So
all
I'm
right.
still in
Makes sense.
Fayetteville. You know what I
So
mean? I
you know
thought the
what?
logic played. You know what I mean? I thought it was fine. Good morning, by the way. How you doing, fellas?
Good.
Hey, Matty, how are you, bud?
It's no it's
We just
no
open up just critical. We just like the group chat just
and
like
I was
carries
just
over
yeah,
right
I
into
know, right? It's
just
like
starting on each other.
it's no fun being sarcastic when your delivery is so logical.
Right.
It's totally
That's what
it's you stole all my ammo.
I try to approach that every single day with you guys. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you
That's
guys
what I
still go
try
in.
and
You know
do
what I
when
mean? Yeah.
Jacob's
Well,
like,
nobody's as bad as Jacob.
it's like I'm
No.
trying to avoid just bullets, and that doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm always ready for war with Jacob, no matter what. If I don't
That's
even
all
care.
right.
I don't even care how he starts the conversation. I'm ready for war. I know he knows something's coming.
Hey, did you yay or nay on the environment for Arkansas and
Like
the
climate change, or
Fayetteville in general, a place that I'm fairly familiar with?
Loved it. I thought it was elite. I thought it was one of the best environments I've been in for any sport. I mean, especially Sunday night. I'll say I'll give you guys Saturday wasn't. I didn't feel the urgency from the fan base on Saturday,
Mm.
but it was 12-1, so maybe they were thinking, okay, job's done, but job's not finished. You know what I mean?
And easy for those guys to fast forward to. They're pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think Saturday was more of like a social gathering, if you will. And then Sunday, though, the concourse was packed out. I mean, they weren't really. I mean, there were some in the bleachers, but they weren't really hanging there, and they were just heckling Creighton crazy. I mean, way worse than Saturday. You could tell the teeth came out. They knew that they were. They had the opportunity to punch their ticket to the supers, so that was different. So yeah, I thought they were, Omaha final series locked in on Sunday night, and boy, that Tennessee super with how like
That is going to be nasty, isn't it?
oh my, I'm like tempted to just stay because
That's what that. So Ravi thought you
I
might do
thought you
that.
might be just
He
staying
thought
for the
you might
super.
do that.
that's a long hotel
It's a
though.
lot of
I
time in
yeah, it's a lot of time in Arkansas for sure. But I'm just like I'm so giddy about that series because you know how I mean Tennessee's always ready to pop off, and I mean that might be the best super of next weekend because of how much heat's going to be
Environment
involved.
or competitiveness.
Both, both. I mean, the pitching staffs are like, you
I don't
know,
love Tennessee, but
the
I
pitching
do love.
staffs are going to be dialing it up. Like they're going to be throwing heat. They're going to be competitive. They're going to be fired up. And then both offenses in that park. Whew, I mean that park.
over.
I mean, guys, that park is tiny,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know. I know you were
little
kind of
bitty.
disappointed.
I mean, it just is what it is. I kind of understand that college baseball. That's how it is. Especially down the further south you get. I think. I just laughed because when I was 13 and 14 playing rec ball, my dimensions were 325, 405, 325. You know what I mean? Like, and then we come to these SEC parks with like guys who are one step away from the pros, and it's just like, yeah, just poke at it and it'll fly. Like okay, that's the way you guys roll. Good luck with your ERAs.
Yeah, I was watching some of the balls leave the yard in Chapel Hill, and I was like, it was almost kind of just the opposite for me. I was like, that had to be pretty well struck because I like the what's the word I'm looking for? The dimensions of the ballpark in Chapel. But I agree with you. Fayetteville is small.
little bandbox.
Mhm.
So you're watching this thing, Matty, and I get it. It's a loss. It was whatever it was, 8-3 final. Bless your heart for texting through the whole game practically, which I'm like, this dude is amazing. But um, hard to come away feeling disappointed with the loss. The competitor in me hates saying that. It doesn't feel right. I don't like it. Even when it's my own team or a team I'm coaching, I'm like, hey, man, we took an L. Like, there's no more
Mhm.
victories. But I felt like the way that game ended versus what Creighton was dealing with, it didn't feel like a loss.
I think you can look at it from a few different perspectives. I think you can absolutely look at it the way you're approaching it from the competitor standpoint. And they were. I didn't get a whole lot of footage of it because I was kind of focused on Ed, but that final out was really, really emotional for the guys in baby blue. I mean, they were, um, Ben North barely took 2 feet away from the batter's box. He was kind of, pretty upset, and I don't remember who consoled him. I think maybe Sailors. But yeah, I mean, there was a few guys that had, like, really, really were slow getting off the field because there were 2 on base. They were. I think that was, the finality of the fact that they had probably played their last game together for a lot of them for sure was pretty emotional. So they felt that. They felt the sting that you're talking about for sure. And then there's the other side of it where you're absolutely right. From a logical standpoint, you essentially, you beat Kansas when you were the underdog, and then you bounce North Dakota State in a thriller to kind of give yourself a second crack at Arkansas. And so if all you're really telling yourself this weekend was all that you were, the only way the way you fell short this weekend in Fayetteville was you just weren't good enough to beat the current betting favorite to win the national championship. I think as competitive as they are, you know, the logic has to jump in there eventually and say, if that's what stopped us, if that's how it ends, you can. I think you should be able to live with that a little bit easier because Arkansas's a wagon. They played extremely well this weekend, and not only that, but the betting markets think they're the favorite right now. So there's no shame in not being good enough to deal with that. They beat Kansas. They beat North Dakota State. They played well this weekend. They just ran up against a better team. Sometimes that happens.
Mm. Yeah, I do wonder, that element of realism that kind of creeps into some of these situations, right? Because
Well, finality sucks.
it does, and it's even more final with obviously the ed service part of the equation for the program in general. I know the players, kind of their situation is what it is, but for the program and for the university, obviously there's that added layer. Did you feel? I know this was sort of an awkward season with the coaching dynamics with Ed and Kingston, and wasn't exactly the Greg McDermott, Al Huss
He
kumbaya.
almost got emotional talking. I was
Yeah,
very proud. I don't know if you heard our interview with Coach Service. Like he allowed
he almost went
you
there.
you could tell it was a very difficult season for him, and he was about as open as Ed could be without spilling the tea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different things running through my mind all year with that. I mean, even when they announced that it was going to happen, I thought, wow.
Like there was a
'Cause
chance the season could kind of get away from him just because
oh,
awkward it is,
100%,
right?
Well, how
100%.
many
I
times did
mean,
he say it was hard during the interview?
Yeah, a lot. I mean,
And it's
yeah,
like, hey, I appreciate the question. And I was like, ooh, when he said that, I knew he wanted us to know
how challenging it
how
was.
challenging it
Yeah.
was.
I mean, I asked him 2 years ago when they missed the conference tournament on the last day because it was between them and they were playing UConn and Georgetown was playing Xavier, and there was still kind of an outside chance that Creighton could have made it, but they just got shellacked by UConn on senior day. It was like 10-0. It was, they were not. That was not their best performance, especially with what was at stake. And I asked him flat out, like, what, like, when will you know that it's, you know, time for a change or time for you to, move on to the next phase or whatever. And his thing then, first of all, Ed Service doesn't come off this way, but he has a lot of belief in himself. Like he is a super confident dude.
Yep.
I mean, he knows the game inside and out and feels like he can manage until he dies.
Mhm.
So that's a big part of it because he doesn't feel like he's at the end of his abilities. It's just that the hourglass is kind of running dry. You know what I mean? Like he is, his family, kind of wants him to be around more. He's getting older. He's had health scares in the past that are, you just don't know. So that's part of it. But the other part of it was he always felt like as long as he wasn't able to give the players the best experience, that would be his sign that it's time to go. And I think he felt like he was still doing that to the best of his abilities, even in his prime. So to him, falling short the last couple of years was just, you know, circumstantial, and that he felt like this group could break through. So I think the whole situation was really difficult for him because I think he felt like this group could be special, and that, introducing a few more cooks into the kitchen could probably, mess it up a little bit. And the fact that it was a final year for him, there was a lot of pressure to, however this ends is how it ends. You're not going to get a second crack at it. There is no further negotiations happening. Like, this is the situation. You have one more year. You have to make the most of it, and after that, you're done, no matter what. So I think there was a lot of pressure that way that probably didn't make for the most enjoyable season. However, I hope that he's able to, once the dust settles a little bit and once he kind of settles into, whatever he's doing next, I hope that he's able to kind of appreciate, what he was able to accomplish this year with those group of guys, especially because I think the coolest part of this whole deal was the fact that in this in this day and age, and you guys know that I'm, all in favor of portal movement and, earning what your market value says you're worth from a player standpoint. I do feel for coaches in some respect that they can't, put their head on the pillow at night and feel like, there isn't something crazy coming in the morning. So from that standpoint, I think it's super cool that Nolan Sailors, Kyle Hess, Ben North, Tate Gillen, Dominic Cancellieri, like all those guys decided to kind of come back for each other, for Ed. And when you see the season they had on top of it, that's a pretty special team and kind of a pretty special story. And I hope that, Ed is kind of going to eventually be at peace with how this ended, even though he probably would wake up tomorrow and if he had his way, he could still be the coach of the Creighton Blue Jays, coming up in the fall.
I don't want to lament too much. I want to take advantage of the supers and little NBA and maybe even some comic books. But
Can we go back and talk about Oregon, Florida State? That was a good topic, I thought.
yeah, let me ask you something real quick, Maddie, because you're as ingrained and entrenched and as ride or die as anyone that I know not named Rob Anderson. Maybe Raz. It's close.
That's
So
crazy.
so you
I can't
moved on.
believe.
We've moved on from Raz. Um, Obviously Kirsten is has moved on. Ed is obviously moving on. Coach Mac's window is very short. You've still got the great guys, ambassadors like Johnny Torres, who is Mr. Community and everything. You've got my one of my faves in Flan. Um, are you have you allowed yourself to kind of process the whole family cohesive thing and how you're quietly transitioning through it as a guy that has followed all the programs through and through?
It's kind of funny because I've said this multiple times, kind of in joking in the past. I was like, whenever they're done, I'll probably, go do something else too, because I just don't want. I don't know if I would. I
Huh.
don't know if it would feel the same, Um, but then they decided to, you know, everything happened so fast, and Kirsten's thing I thought was a couple years away at least,
Me too.
and then all of a sudden I was just driving home from a baseball game and it popped up. So Max, I could feel like the window was obviously closing. I think he still has probably more years than a lot of people are guessing right now. I'm seeing two as a popular number, and it wouldn't shock me if he breezes past that.
It
I think
it
the
would
thing.
it would shock me.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think you might be right. I think the thing
I
with
think
Huss
there's
was
more
more about.
people that think that it's one than three.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Interesting.
Mr. ACC honk in terms of championship playoff format.
I mean,
Closer to one than three.
I think the Huss thing was more about get him before someone else does.
oh, for sure.
After,
But I
so that
think I do think, Maddie. I think Huss would have chilled. I think he would have waited.
think so.
'Cause he has such a good setup.
I would say High
They
Point.
were they were paying
good
him well.
job.
He had more talent than anybody in that conference. I mean, he was
Mhm.
going dancing every year.
Yeah, but also there was going to be some bags dropped off at his front door that he was going to have a hard time turning away too. So
Yeah, if
um,
it's right in front of you, if it's always harder to
yeah,
say
that's
no,
what I
man.
mean.
When
It's
the
like
briefcase is open on your desk, you're like, oh
Yeah,
wow, that is
yeah.
a lot of money.
I mean, that was the Rosen Kirsten thing. Was like, hey, my alma mater's like, really after me here. Is it time, or should I just go do my thing? That you eventually you just hit a point where you're like, yeah, we got to pull the trigger, or else we're gonna lose the contingency plan, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
So yeah, it's really tough. I was kind of joking a little bit this weekend. I was like, yeah, I retired 3 coaches and I sent the other one to the exit door. When you look at it, but yeah, it is going to be a transition for Creighton for sure, and that's why I've been telling people for the last few years, like, enjoy this, because you don't. I feel like it's extremely remarkable that Creighton has as much going right now athletically across the board as they do, considering just what they're managing in terms of finances and kind of their profile, and being a private institution with a sub 10,000 enrollment. It's crazy that, like, their baseball team's in a regional final. Men's basketball is winning a tournament game every year at minimum. Women's basketball has been a stalwart, every year in the NCAA tournament with this last class. You have volleyball on fire right now. Obviously, like, rev share, whenever that stuff finally gets greenlit and finalized, I think there's a lot of confidence within the walls of Creighton's athletic department that they feel like they're
yeah.
positioned pretty well. I mean, there's a lot of confidence from multiple programs that they're going to be,
I mean, how many
that
peers will they have in the conference? St. John and Connecticut?
I mean, athletically
Yeah.
across the board.
I'm talking about with the rev share and how they can do the district.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about UConn, because they gotta figure out how to keep that football program afloat.
I,
But yeah,
listen,
like,
Do they?
they
Do they?
bypassed it before, Maddie. I don't know how much they care.
yeah, I hear you, but it's always a thing every year with them. So I've never
You,
fully
you did make
trusted.
another run at it with Mora, and then
Yeah.
you at
Yeah,
part two. Okay.
there. I think that.
I'll entertain that they would like to. Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I'll give you that. But yeah, Creighton seems like they're best positioned to be the best athletics program in the Big East right now with the way they're going. There's just so much consistency across the board, and I think they have hired well. Like, I know there's a lot of angst about what the post booth volleyball situation looks like, but I think Rosen's a great coach. He's been a head coach, a successful head coach before. He was obviously a successful assistant. Angie's still on board, Adam's still on board. Like, there's not the only loss is Kirsten. And while I'll give you that's a massive one, I think they're still positioned well to kind of hit the ground running, and take shots at where they were aiming last year as well. So um yeah, the ones that's kind of up in the air right now is what happens to soccer, because I just feel like that sport is kind of getting buried a little bit in this
Mm.
country, and I just don't know if you're trying to figure out how to allocate resources towards what you can achieve at the highest level. I'm just not sure how enticing soccer is at this point. So obviously baseball, volleyball, women's basketball, men's basketball, those four sports for Creighton, those are like probably four of the five most popular sports in the country outside of football, right? So Creighton kind of sees where they're positioned right now, momentum wise, in terms of the success they've had recently in those sports. And they probably think, like, let's make a push there and see what we can get out of that in terms of reaching goals that maybe have been attained already, or are still kind of right in front of us. So I think that's where they're at right now. I understand the coaching turnover is probably creating a lot of angst within the fan base, and maybe even some within the athletic department, just kind of wondering what if.
Maddie,
But I
why
also think they're also in a good position where they're leading off too.